I remember the first time she told me, I'm gonna believe for a painless, no epidural childbirth. I remember thinking that, she's a bit crazy lah, because, I think there's a fine line between crazy and faith. The gynae also reacted in a very sarcastic manner. What do you say?
Oh, you don't want to use epidural, you want to be a superwoman?
Every single time we visit him, he was like, hey, Superwoman is here, something like that. It's actually a bit annoying lah.
It is. I really would like to punch him a bit in the face.
Yeah. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today is a special video. I just wanted to take this time to basically interview my wife, right? Interview Zoey, and we're gonna talk about her supernatural childbirth, her supernatural painless childbirth experience. And there's a couple of reasons why we are doing this video. The first one is that it has been on our heart for quite a while to get this story out, but for some reason we haven't really get down to doing it. I mean, we've been thinking about writing it or doing a short video, or maybe I don't know. We have always been just sharing with friends, but we never put it on social media. And we thought, why not just put it on a video so that we can actually inspire couples, not just mothers actually, even couples, including the husband, because I believe there's a husband role to play a part in this story. The second reason is so that we don't have to tell the story anymore, because at least we put it in the video form. We've been telling the story so many times, and I'm very lazy. And if someone is really interested, here's a link you can watch to know the whole full story. So we don't have to share it again. I think that there's one more reason just for us. I think it's just to recount how the Lord has been so faithful in this story. And maybe a video that we can watch back again, something like counting the good things that the Lord has done for us. And maybe down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, when we are facing bigger challenges, that we can look back at such video to remind ourselves that the Lord was faithful, and He will be always faithful. So that's the whole premise of why we're doing this video, and we're gonna start right away with a couple of questions for Zoey. So basically, this is a video about her supernatural, painless childbirth experience. Right, 2 times. Right, so both our daughters were born with you experiencing a supernatural childbirth. So tell the audience, right? Tell us a bit more about what got you on this idea in the first place. Because I remember the first day that you told me that you wanted to trust for a painless childbirth, and you said to me, I'm not going to take any epidural and all that. I thought you were crazy. So tell me more about that.
I think it has always been in my heart that I wanted children. But because I'm a person with really low pain tolerance, I think the last tolerable thing or intolerable pain was probably my ear piercing. And that was how low my tolerance was, and you can see that I don't have any tattoos. That was also the biggest deterrence of why I didn't get one. If not, I would probably have quite a bit of tattoos on myself.
Yeah, when you were young and rebellious. And
yeah, so thank God for that.
Yeah.
And right, when the time comes for us to have children, that's when it kind of dawned on me, because of all the scenes that I've seen in movies, the stories that I heard from our friends, and they were not very pretty. Yeah, I was really scared.
For example?
I mean, you have seen a movie where a lady goes into childbirth and you can't see anything, but you just see the woman's face screaming, perspiring, crying, and
panicking to the hospital.
Correct.
Yeah, there's always a lot of anxiety, worry,
and chaos. Yeah, so yeah. And I heard from a friend that the epidural needle is really big and thick, and I'm really scared of needle. Yeah, so it's I really wanted children, but there are just so many things that I don't want to go through. And I remember I was looking for answer in terms of I was asking for God, I don't want to go through epidural, right? I just want to give birth without that. Not because I want to be kekiang and don't use epidural, but because I'm more scared of the... I asked for painless childbirth because I don't want to use the epidural, because the needle is just too big. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah. So I just wanted to point out that part. I think it's just a childlike faith, where Zoey just simply asked for a painless childbirth because she's afraid of pain, even afraid of pain from the needle. So there's totally nothing wrong with epidural, nothing wrong with C-section, right? There are people who believe in that. I think that's fine. It's just that for her, she decided that she want a supernatural, natural, painless childbirth, even without epidural.
I mean, that wasn't what I thought at first, but it's just like, God, I don't want to use epidural. Yeah, to not use epidural means I have to give birth without pain, right? Yeah, so that's how it started. And I remember very close to our first pregnancy, probably 2 to 3 months before, I came across this sermon that I was just listening, and Pastor was just briefly talking about curse and pains and how Jesus Christ has already paid for it on the cross. And he mentioned the word, even labor pain. Yeah, and that caught my attention from that sermon.
Yep.
And then I started asking myself, oh, you're right. It's like, Pastor is right that actually childbirth is a curse.
Pain of childbirth.
Pain of childbirth is a curse. Not childbirth. Pain of childbirth is a curse. And it's said in Genesis, right, when Eve ate the apple and God say, okay.
From the tree of knowledge of good and evil and sin against God.
Yeah, whatever he says. And that you shall give birth labor in pain?
Yeah. So basically, there was no mention of labor pain until Adam and Eve sinned against God. And the first curse that was proclaimed on Eve is that she will
Genesis 3, to the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. Yeah, so that's where the first labor pain was being talked about.
So that means before men fall, before they fell, there shouldn't be pain for childbirth. Right?
Correct. I mean, I also asked God, like, how does this work? Because you want us to be fruitful and multiply, yet there is pain, right? Yeah, it didn't sit well with me. Yeah, until I had heard that sermon, then I realized like, oh, I have been redeemed for it. Yeah, so that was the first step of...
Just some context, redeemed because of what Christ has done on the cross, right? Because Christ, in the New Testament, it says that Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the law, right? Because of what happened to Adam and Eve, right? They sinned and they were cursed, but Christ came to redeem us. And therefore, because we put our trust in Christ, we should no longer be under the curse, right? So that is the premise of why you decided to trust for this.
I guess it was at least the first step of me believing that, oh, it might be possible, because I have not heard anyone done that. Yeah, so like, how do I do it, right? I have no idea, but I know that at least there is a hope. Yeah, so that's where it started. And that was like a few months before I was even like, we even like conceived. And then I remember we conceived in the month of May. Yeah, and we happened to go to a friend's place just for a catch up, and we broke the news to her. Yeah, we were like, oh, we got something to tell you, being quite sneaky. And I don't know, she's a very wise woman, very wise friend that we have from church as well. When I said like, we have something to tell you, then she's like, are you pregnant? I'm like, spot on. Yeah. And then she was just very calm, and she's just like, oh, I have something to give you. I have this book that I read during my third pregnancy, and it helped me to believe in some things. But it was nothing about painless childbirth. It was just that she said, she can speak to the child, and knowing that like God has a say, or like have influence over the fetus even. Yeah, so that was what she shared to me. I was like, oh, that's cool. And she presented me this book called The Supernatural Childbirth.
It's a small booklet.
Yeah.
Right? It's a small booklet.
Very thin one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hate reading, so that really helps. It's not very daunting. Yeah, that's where it started. When I opened it up, I wasn't having any like much expectation. But when I read it, it was this woman. She gave birth to 3 children, all without epidural. Yeah, and that
And painless.
And painless, correct. And she prayed for and believed for a lot of things, and it all came to pass. And when I read her testimonial, it really gives me like great faith, because at first when I hear that labor pain is a curse, and I have been reading from it, there is just like a hope, right? So I say that I didn't see anybody do it, so I don't know how, or couldn't believe it really works or not. Then seeing this testimony, I feel I felt very loved because God knows my heart and He is just paving it for me. Yeah, because it's just random. It's very random. I mean, to me lah, but I'm sure not in God's timeline. Yeah.
I remember the first time she told me that I'm going to believe for a painless, no epidural childbirth. I remember thinking that, she's a bit crazy lah, because, I think there's a fine line between crazy and faith, right? And I think when she first told our gynae, the gynae also reacted in a very sarcastic manner. Yeah, I think he have seen people wanting to not, take epidural and go for a childbirth. So I think he was like making fun of you. Right? What did he say?
Oh, you don't want to use epidural. You want to be a superwoman. Okay, yes. We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
He was like, "Wow, you want to be a superwoman? Superwoman." Every single time we visit him, he was like, "Hey, superwoman is here," something like that. It's actually a bit annoying,
It is. I really would like to punch him in the face.
Yeah. So that's the part that we learned from the second childbirth. We didn't pray for a good gynae. But that's the lesson for later on. Okay, so that's what happened, right? So you decided to believe in that. Maybe I also can come in and share that part where I thought she was being crazy, but then towards nearly 1 month left to the due date, right? She still believed in it. She still, sometimes I was just say, are you sure you sure you don't want epidural? Like, are you sure this is what you want? And I think 1 month before, I decided to find out, okay, what's causing her to think this way. So she shared me about a book, right? So I decided to read the book myself 1 month before the due date, right? So as I was reading the book, same thing, there was a lot of scriptures in the book that basically showed that as a Christian, as a believer, woman basically can trust in a supernatural painless childbirth. In fact, not just painless, but like a quick delivery, right?
I think it's like by natural, God made us in a certain way. Yeah, in terms of delivering and giving birth. Yeah, but it was all because the world has fallen. Eve ate the apple, and that is why it's kind of
Yeah. So I didn't have the faith immediately, but at least I understand, okay, why she wants to believe for this. And I think at least there's an agreement. I think a very important part where at least there's an agreement, right? Because before that, I wasn't really agreeing to this idea, right? I thought that you might agree, you might regret it later, and all the stories I've heard, horror stories I've heard about people, in labor, and then they decided not to take epidural, then later when they decide to take, it's already too late. Those kind of things, right? So, but after reading the book, I at least get it, I understand. And I remember telling her that, I don't have the faith, but I'm going to I forgot what was the exact word I used, but
I don't have the faith, but I'm going to tag on your faith.
Yeah, I'm going to tag on your faith.
I'm going to believe on what you believe.
So if you believe, I believe in it. Yeah. All right, so let us get on to the first day. Okay, what happened on the first day? So our daughter was born on the 27th of January. Okay, so tell us what happened.
I was due for my checkup because it's
When's the due date, by the way?
28th. Yeah, it's just 1 day before my due date. I'm just due for a checkup. And so, I mean, gynae always have to wait for very long. So then we decided to just register, and we went for dim sum, gonna buy some bread, have a walk and all that. And then we went back for the checkup. And when we were at the gynae,
It's on the 27th.
Correct, on the 27th itself. And when I went to the gynae was doing his routine check, right? And then he asked me, do you want to give birth at home?
Sure.
I was like, what?
Yeah, I remember he asked that in a very sarcastic manner. Yeah.
But I didn't take it as sarcastic. I don't know why.
Didn't.
For me, it was just we have that option in Singapore, because I thought that is not approved for whatever reason lah. Because I've always seen Ang Mohs, they have their childbirth at home, and I really want to do that.
Yeah. I think you can. I've heard of it, but anyway, yes, go ahead.
Yeah. And then he said, no, there is no option. I was like, then why are you asking me? Yeah, I just very annoyed by this gynae, okay. Then he said, you need to go home and pack your bag and go to the hospital right now.
Because you're in labor now.
Yeah, I said, now I need to pack now? Can later or not? He said, no, now. Then I was like, okay, why? Then he said, because you're in labor. I was like, what does that mean? Yeah, so I have no clue about my pregnancy. I have no clue about how labor works.
Yeah.
And then he says that I am 5 cm dilated, and whatever that means, I also don't understand. Yeah.
That's about halfway through. Right.
Yes, I only know that in my second pregnancy.
You mean you didn't know until your second
I
pregnancy?
have no idea. I just go in and give birth for. Yeah, okay, I was just.
So for the context of the audience, right, 10 cm is like you're
fully dilated,
you're ready
give
to
birth.
push.
Correct.
Yeah, but so 5 cm is about 50%.
Correct. And then he says, "You're feeling okay?" I say, "Yeah, nothing. We just went to Dim Sum, buy bread and everything, right? I don't even know." So yeah, we went back home. We packed the luggage. We still took our time. It's like choosing clothes, what to pack inside the luggage, right? Then we go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So we were there in the hospital, procedure and all that. And I think the nurse was putting whatever that is on my tummy.
Yeah.
And they were tracking my contraction. And I remember at 6 cm, the nurse came in, said that, I can see that you're having contraction. How do you feel? I say, oh really? Like,
Yeah.
how? Like, I don't understand, because I was not really feeling anything.
Yeah.
Then she said, okay, if you need anything, just call me. So she came in a few times to check. Yeah. And at about 9 cm dilated, I was feeling contraction, but there was no pain. It was just contraction. And so this is something that I learned from the book, which is very interesting. So this women question God, like, okay, because you need contraction to push the baby out, right? To have that muscle. But how do you do it without pain? I need to understand like how this mechanic works. Yeah. So God actually showed her an image of how do you imagine going gym and you're lifting the weight, and at a certain point of time your muscle is so tensed up, right? That's the feeling. But when you let go of the weight, your muscle relax and there is no pain. It's just that contraction. Yeah. So when I read that, I could relate, because just nice there was a period that I was like working out and I was like, okay, that is okay. It's not painful. It's just like a squeezing lah. And I felt that on my at about 9, I think it's 8 cm. Yeah. So it was just contraction, and then okay, let's have Milo, let's have a talk and all that. Yeah. So yes, the nurse came in at 9 cm and she was checking and she said like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was kind of asking like, are you really in labor? Yeah, I recall that conversation. She was like, are you really in labor? Because she had no epidural and everything. And then I think the nurse was saying that at the counter, all of us, I remember this is what she said, okay? She said, all of us are in shock.
Yeah, because they were looking at
you look too calm.
Yeah, they were looking at the monitor.
Yeah.
And I was having contraction, but I was not screaming and everything. I remember
She said that by now most people are screaming and shouting.
Correct.
Yeah.
So then she said like, do you work out? I say, yes, I do. Then I said, but I also pray. Yeah, then she, yeah. I remember the labor ward was really calm. We were just like talking, and then we were listening to sermons.
Yeah.
We were listening to
worship songs.
Yeah.
It was very restful in the labor ward. So we arrived at about 2:30. Right, 2:30, and then you were ready at about 7.
7.
Around 7. So during this period, it was around 5 hours, but it was a very restful one. Yeah, we were just talking and we were just giving thanks and praising the Lord. I think because at this time, right, I can really tell that this is really happening. Because Zoey looks so calm, right? And then the fact that the nurse actually even said that by now most people are screaming and shouting, right? I think there's this part of me where in the labor room, I started believing. Yeah, I started believing. Like my faith started to increase the more I see how calm you are, the more I see the gynae was also shocked. Right? In fact, the gynae was the one who said that you feel no pain, I need to give you pain.
Yeah, I called him the evil gynae because he came in at 6 cm dilated. I was doing fine, okay, I was doing well. Yeah, he came in for a check and he said, how are you feeling? I was like, okay.
Oh, Superwoman, how are you feeling?
Yeah. Then I said, okay, what am I supposed to feel? He said, no pain. I said, no pain. Okay, if no pain, I'm gonna make you feel some pain now. And he just went ahead to break my water bag. And I couldn't even have time to like react to it. Yeah. And I don't even know what that means, like breaking water bag. But I just hated him because he didn't ask me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But despite that, there is no pain. I think he was just trying to induce. the labor. And
Yeah.
maybe he thinks that...
No, he said he was going to give you pain, right?
Yeah.
He said, oh, you know, it's not facing pain?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you some pain.
Yeah,
right?
correct. He said that. They're quite sadist.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that we had to pray about for the second one. But yes, anyway, so at about 10 cm dilated, that's where the nurse came in to check, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And she says that like you're ready to go for labor. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it took me about 20 minutes. Yeah, to push the baby out.
Yeah. 20 minutes, push the baby out. And there was no any major complication. I think there was
No.
there was just was that the gynae actually okay, maybe not to go so much in details, but again the
I
gynae.
was praying for hopefully not having to sew.
Yeah.
Because I'm again scared of the needle. But I think there was a decision that the gynae made to like just snip it before anything even happened.
Instead of allowing it to tear naturally.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
Which is something that we didn't discuss with the gynae beforehand. So it's not the gynae's fault also. Yeah.
yeah. So that was actually the most painful part of my labor, which is when the gynae is sewing me up, because I'm not an epidural. Yeah, when he's sewing it. So it was just terrible for me. Yeah.
But other than that, the pain, the childbirth itself was painless.
Yeah.
And if he didn't snip it, then you
I would
shouldn't.
have a perfect experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would do it again.
Yeah. Do it again. 5-star, bought a t-shirt and a mug. Will come again.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the first one, right?
Right.
And I think I also want to take this time to just share a bit about how, like, when this first happened, obviously I was very amazed. I was very shocked. I was in a room, and my faith increased, right? But of course, over time, right, there's also a lot of thoughts that came in, such as, oh no, maybe it's just a coincidence, right? Because there are some statistics that shows that, you know, some women just don't experience pain, right? Maybe you're just part of the statistics, or maybe the baby was small because you were praying for a small baby. So Ayla was kind of small. She came out 2.7 kg.
Funny enough, that was in my prayer list. I said that I want to pray for 2.7 kg baby because I don't have faith for big baby.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I wrote. Yeah,
Yeah.
which you can see the screenshot here.
And Ayla came out at 2.7, right?
2.7.
And so when we share this story to some of our friends, they will usually dismiss it by saying that, oh, because the baby is too small, 2.7, okay? That doesn't make sense anyway. It doesn't matter how big the baby is, you're supposed to feel pain. But the other one is that, oh, maybe you worked out. You went to the gym, right? You work out, and therefore that's why you didn't have any pain.
Right.
And so there was a lot of this thoughts that, okay, maybe it wasn't supernatural, maybe it wasn't God, right? It was just, it was just, lucky, or heng, just part of the statistics. Maybe you worked out, right? And so on. And so that's why we kind of didn't really share it online. I think that's the reason why, right?
Yeah.
It's an awesome testimony, but somehow, the devil always come in, right, to try to steal it away, right? Because the devil doesn't want people to hear about this. And then we didn't share, right? So this is the first time we're recording this after 3.5, almost 4 years. So that's why I'll lead into the second one, right? Because I think the second one is even more glorious and even more amazing. Okay? So because of this first experience, right, we decided to trust for a second one. You decided to trust for another supernatural childbirth.
Correct.
Right? So tell us more about it.
When going to the second supernatural childbirth, I think starting from when I conceived, I had a lot of doubts because of what he said, right? Like people were telling me, oh, you're just lucky, you're just part of the statistic, and your baby is small, and that's why it's possible. And it did eat into me. But I was also angry at the same time. I was telling God, okay, if this person say that it's because of my small baby, then this time around I'm going to pray for a big one. Yeah, so you can see my screenshot here. I said that
So there was a list of things that you screenshot, basically.
Correct.
There's a list of things that you prayed, correct? For the second one.
Correct.
Yeah. All right.
And one of the things is I want to pray for 3.2 kg baby.
Yeah, a bigger baby.
A bigger baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm prideful and I'm angry
Yes.
about that comment. Yeah, I'm just I'm going to prove this person wrong. It's not because of the small baby.
Yeah.
So that was my heart when I went into the first pregnancy.
Yeah.
But also as time goes on, right, those comments, the seed grows. Yeah. And I remember
The seed of doubt grows.
Correct. Towards the last half of the year, I was getting scared. I was getting scared that the first one is really just coincidental. And
yeah, I was scared again. I had to reread the book one more time.
Correct. I also had to go back and reread the book. Yeah, to build up that faith.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a lot of things that I experienced in my first pregnancy that I didn't like. So I prayed it in my second pregnancy. If you read down this list, right? I actually say, do I go down the list?
I think maybe just some of the main ones that I can remember that she told me was the first one is you wanted it to be a morning.
I wanted it to be a morning birth because I hated the fact that I gave birth to my first kid
at
in
7
the
p.m.
evening. You know, it's like how you check into a hotel at 7 p.m. So you kind of like have less time to enjoy the hotel. That's how I felt. Yeah. So then I told God, say, I want to go in the morning so I can enjoy the hospital bed the fullest.
Yeah. Enjoy the suite for the full day.
Correct. So it's like going to hospital about 6 a.m. I was very specific. I don't know why. I don't even know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And give birth before 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And then I also say that I want to have time
bigger baby,
for
which is what you said earlier.
Bigger baby. Yeah, I want a big one. Going to hospital when nearing labor, but yet have time to register. Yeah, because I didn't like the first experience whereby I just have to be rushed to go home and like pack my bags and go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to like strut in and then like sign the paper. Okay, just nice. I'm ready to give birth now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I have in my mind.
Yeah. So that was one of the prayer requests.
Correct.
Okay.
What's the other one?
The other one was you have time to prepare.
Yeah,
so
I
it's
have
not
time
rushed.
to prepare. Yeah, so
you have time to shower.
Correct. Eat my breakfast.
Yeah.
Because the first one I didn't have.
Take a shit.
Yeah, the first one I only had the dim sum in the morning. Then I had to go in the afternoon, and I cannot eat until at night. I think I would like kind of pass out after I gave birth. Yeah, because I was just like
hungry,
out of energy. So specifically, I want to have breakfast.
Yeah. And you want to prepare, right? You want
I want
shower.
to have time to prepare. Yes, it was very important for me.
Okay, so day of labor. So this one I can share from my point of view, and then you can carry on from there. Okay. So the baby was supposed to be due when? February something.
February something 14.
February 14. Okay. So then on the 27th of January, which is the birth of our first daughter, we were preparing for her birthday celebration. Yeah, a zoo trip of her birthday celebration, basically. So in the morning of 27th of January, which is the birth of our first daughter, at around 5 a.m., I think, right? 5 a.m. 4 or 5 a.m., right? She woke me up and she said, I think I'm in labor. And in my mind, I was like, well, it got so coincidental both on the same day and 2 weeks earlier, all right? By the way, it's already full term, right? But technically, the due date is only until, not until 2 weeks later.
8 weeks, so it's full term.
Yeah, it's already full term. Yeah, but the due date is 40 weeks, right? Yeah. So I was like, there's no way lah. Then I went back to sleep, right?
Yeah, and because he had insomnia that day, he only managed to sleep at 1 a.m. and I woke him up at about 3 or 4. So I felt bad. I was like, maybe I'm thinking too much. Yeah, so I went back to sleep. And then, but I feel like this moving of fetus is not normal. It's not like the usual night kicks. So then I woke up. I was like, God, what is happening? Because, I mean, to my defense, I've never felt anything like this in my first labor. Yeah, so I have no idea what's going on. And I remember sitting on the toilet bowl. I'm just researching online, like, what is a Braxton Hicks? So Braxton Hicks is basically kind of like a forced labor feel. I thought I was having that. Yeah. But then I also told God, I don't want this kind of like false news. Then God say, what if it's not? But then I also don't want to wake him up, so poor thing. Only slept 2 hours. So I searched, how does labor feels like? How does a contraction like goes? And then I started to time myself, the contraction and all that for an hour. And then I'm like, I think this is it.
Because the
contraction
became more frequent and
correct.
What do you call it?
And it's like for an hour. Yeah. So then I told God, like, because there's no water bag that broke or anything. It was very clean and just nice. Then I'm like, I think it's time. He said, how do you know it's time? I said, I've been timing for the past 1 hour. I had to submit my proposal, to tell him how I was in labor. I said I've been timing for an hour now. It's about 5 a.m.
Yeah, and the contraction was like every 5 minutes. Or...
Correct, because the first pregnancy, he was the one who timed my contraction. So I think it made sense to him. Then he was like, Okay. And then you
No, I got shocked, so I jumped up.
You didn't jump out. I
No.
remember you were like, oh, like.
Yeah, I did that first. Then I saw the contraction. Like, okay, show me the contraction. Then after that, I saw was like, there's a
1 minute.
consistent timing already. Like was it every 1 minute?
1 minute.
Yeah, every 1 minute there was a one contraction. So I was like, I remember this in the first labor. So I got shocked. I was like, oh, this is really happening, right? So I jumped out, and then I went to.
I say it's okay,
Shower.
take your time. I want to shower first because I don't want to like not shower in the hospital for don't know how many
Yeah.
days. Yeah. So I washed my hair, I shower, I went down to make my oatmeal breakfast. And then I was like, yeah, the bags never mind, I don't need to pack. Later we come back and settle it. Yeah. So then we just walk out to the hospital. And I remember when we left home, it's about 6 a.m.
We drove lah. We didn't walk to the hospital.
As in walk up to the car. lah.
Okay, yeah. So we drove to the hospital.
I remember calling my mom at 6 a.m. I say, Mia, I'm going to give birth now. She was also shocked because she just woke up from her sleep, right? I was like, but it's okay, I'm going to update you later. Yeah.
Okay, so the interesting part is when we reached the hospital about
6:20.
Yeah, 6:20. Okay. I dropped you off first before I go and park.
Yeah,
okay.
because you had to park the car.
Yeah. So then you went to the labor ward
Okay.
to register, right? And I remember that when I parked and I went back up, right, to the labor ward, and when I went to the labor ward at around 6:30, you are still there at the registration counter. Yeah. So I was like wondering what's going on. So maybe you can share what happened.
So I walked in and it's like really quiet, nobody at 6 a.m. I walked in and I told the nurse, I say, nurse, I'm going to give birth now. Then she was like, oh, okay, you take a seat at the sofa, wait for me. I'm like,
Because she's too calm, right? You are too calm.
I said, no, I am going to give birth now. Say, yeah, you wait there. Then I'm like, no, I just stand at the counter. Then she say, this one is your first time? I say, oh, no, second time. Oh, okay. You fill up this paper. I was like, okay. I just take my time and fill out the paper. Then he said, do you always have a fast delivery? I was like, I only had one. So I guess yes. Yeah. And then we just did the registration. That's when he came out. Like, why are you still here?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. Yeah. But after that registration, I was finally like given a ward. Yeah. So I went in and changed and everything. And they needed to check how far I am in. Yeah, in terms of the contraction. So then they put that thing on my belly again.
Yeah, the machine and all that. They hook up all the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was about like 5 minutes in or 10 minutes in. And I asked the nurse, I say like, how? Am I going to give birth already? Because I feel like I am.
Yeah.
And then he said, you wait first. We are still checking the contraction. I was like, okay lor. Then in less than 3 minutes, he say, you need to give birth already. I said, haven't I been saying that?
Yeah.
I see your contraction. You're going to give birth now?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, you need to check me. Say, you are fully dilated already. He said, don't give birth now. Don't push, okay? Just breathe normally. Don't push. And that was when the ward suddenly got busy because there was only one nurse that's attending to me.
Yeah.
Suddenly 3 nurses came into the room and started panicking, and you heard like, they started setting up stuff. Yeah, and because I was having gestational diabetes, I had to put on like antibiotics. And because they were so in rush, okay, tell them your experience of seeing that antibiotic.
They were so rushed that they couldn't find. What's that? They couldn't find the vein to.
Yeah, so they was just like poking a bunch of. Then I was like, wait.
So they basically, right, they were supposed to like find a vein somewhere here, or I don't know lah, right? Oh, here, yeah, somewhere here or something like that, and they couldn't find it. So they were like going a few areas, poking in, taking out, poking in, taking out.
Mind you, yeah, I hate needle.
Yeah, eventually they have a needle they poke somewhere here, and it was like halfway sticking out. And then because I have fear of needle, I started feeling giddy. She's the one giving birth. I started feeling giddy, and I was like, you know what, because they were like poking around, and then I can see blood and all that. So I was like, hey, you know what, I need to go out and have a Milo. So I dismissed myself from the room. I went outside and had a Milo.
Grab a Milo and then sitting at the couch at the side.
Yeah.
So like the nurse was doing the needle, right? I was like, stop. I said, this is more painful than whatever I'm supposed to feel. I say, can you all like do it properly? Then they like, don't know, they talk among themselves. Then they like decided to do it on the other hand, and they finally did it right.
Yeah.
And I felt like this pain is so overwhelming. Like there was even nothing here. Yeah. So they told me that you
the third kid we need to pray for the nurse.
Oh yeah, I still had time to win a
pray. The first one I never prayed for the gynae. Second one I forgot to pray for the nurse. We need to pray this too.
We did. I did pray. Yeah.
Then what like that?
I think they just panic lor. Yeah.
Okay. Pray that they don't panic lah.
Okay.
You only pray for favor, man. Never pray that they panic. Yeah. Okay. So.
Yeah. So I.
So the gynae came. Yeah. Go ahead.
I forgot to say that I even had time to take a poop. Yeah. So that I don't have to go through that whatever medicine that they put in my anal and like flush out the poop. So I was very glad. And it was good because I felt like the Lord knows that I'm just going to go in and then probably the nurse is not going to believe me and I have to give birth right on the spot. And those things are all cleared like way before when I'm home. Yeah.
Because you pray for like having a morning where you can shower and basically
correct, have time.
Yeah, have time for yourself.
In the hospital.
Yeah. Okay, so around 6:40, that was when they started panicking, I remember.
Correct.
And then the doctor, the gynae came at 7.
Correct. They say like, give me 15 minutes, the doctor is on the way. I was like, okay, then what do you do now? Say, just breathe. I was like, okay, lor, just lying there. And I think I was just looking at him sitting at the sofa at the corner.
I was still recovering from the giddiness from the...
and like drinking
my Milo.
Yeah. So,
okay. Yeah, some morning, like I think low blood pressure or something like that. Low blood sugar, sorry.
Yeah.
And then
the gynae came in.
Yeah, gynae came at 7.
And then she checked me, and then she said like your water bag is not broken. So in order for me to like give birth, like I had to break it. I said okay. You see the contrast with the two gynae. This gynae was just so sweet. Yeah, and I told her about my first experience. And she know what I'm looking for in terms of like advices and all that. Yeah, I even told her I'm working out. While the first gynae is like, don't work out. Yeah. So there was really like a prayer answered lah for this gynae. So she came.
Yeah.
Yeah, she brought my water bag. And probably in like 10 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes and the baby is out.
Yeah, the baby was out in 7:05. Around 7:05.
Okay, end of story, right?
Yeah.
It's just like that. Yeah, she just popped out and when they weigh the baby, it's 3.2 kg.
Exactly what you pray for, right?
Correct.
It's a bigger baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, and among other things like head full of hair and stuff like that.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. And it was really quick that he didn't even get a chance to see the labor. Yeah.
I was still recovering. I was still sitting in the sofa. I was like, shouldn't be so fast, right? I'm drinking my Milo, and then like, oh, baby's out. Like,
yeah. And then, it's like, Daddy, you want to come and cut the umbilical cord? It's like,
huh? Baby's out. And so that was 5 minutes. And that was really amazing. I think that's even more glorious than the first child.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that also answers a lot of my question on like, again, going back to like, maybe it's just probability, maybe it's just luck, right? Like, how can it be coincidence that all your prayer requests was answered? Right? At the time you said morning, right? So it was morning and you said exactly...
Before 10 a.m.
No, reached hospital around 6, right? And then delivered by 10. And yes, the baby was delivered by 10. At 7 o'clock. Before 10, correct. At 7 o'clock, no rush, right? Reached the hospital just in time. So this time around, we didn't even have to wait like 5 hours in hospital. It was just it could have been even faster if the nurse believed us lah. But yeah, from 6:30 to about 7:05, that was like less than 40 minutes, right? You had time to prepare. It was a bigger baby, right? So almost all of your this main prayer request all came to pass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember after the childbirth, so the nurse brought a paper and asked me like, can you look at this chart, pain level from 0 to 10? What was your pain level when you give birth just now?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the chart, I'm like, I want to say 0, but I'm not sure because I don't know if that would be too fake. So I said 1. Then she was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and,
I should have said 0.
Yeah. And I think it's amazing that within just a couple of hours, so I even went to the gym, I was like, hey, everything good, right? So when we all checked in
right?
to the...
Do you need me here? You don't need, right? Can I go to the gym?
Yeah. So I went to the gym, and then when I came back, Zoey was already walking around. I think I came back at about afternoon 1, 12 o'clock or 1.
Before you go, I was already walking around. That's why I was okay. You were okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was being pushed to the ward, I needed to go to the toilet. I remember the first childbirth, I needed to go to the toilet, but I couldn't because the stitching was so painful. And I just literally like peed wherever I stand. Yeah. But then the second childbirth was when I was pushed to the ward, I needed to pee. I just got up and I went to the toilet. Yeah. That's when he was like, okay, I think
you
I
look fine. I think I can go to the gym. Yeah. Yeah, so that was amazing. And
throughout the day, I actually have nurses coming in and say, you're the one that gave birth without epidural. Yeah, I have a few nurses that came in and asked me.
Yeah, so they're probably talking among themselves or something, right? So again, I think it's not like just a luck thing. If not, they won't be talking about it. But I think, yeah, it was amazing that we didn't, once we get back, life pretty much went back to normal, right? I think within 6 days, we were attending church and going to CG.
Correct. I think I remember the second day, because it's a last minute, I won't say a last minute baby, but it was just unexpected, right? So I haven't had anything set up. We didn't have a cot set up. We didn't have the room set up. So when I discharged, the first thing I came home was to fix the crib. Yeah, and to like do everything at home.
Right.
Yeah, and I was like climbing up and down the staircase as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But before you say, I remember there was this time that was nearing the time that I was going to labor, and I still had that doubt of whether this is the first pregnancy is coincident or not. Yeah, I remember a friend you met gave you a word of encouragement that you came back to share with me, that the second one will also be a supernatural childbirth, because if the second one is not supernatural childbirth, then it will make the first one look like it's not God. Yeah. And God will not take that because it doesn't glorify Him.
Really? Yeah, I think it was something like that. I cannot remember that conversation, but yeah, I'm glad you got something from my conversation with my friend. Yeah, I think throughout this entire experience, I think my part was just to believe and be in agreement with Zoey. And that's all my part, right? The whole entire believing was all you. I mean, it was you giving birth and all that. But God was also very faithful to me, and I have also my own portion. So both our daughter was born on January 27. And before the born of our first daughter, I was actually pretty worried, right? As men, usually the worry is more towards provision, can we provide enough money or not? And that's basically what the enemy attacked me on. And so when the first baby was conceived, I remember God giving me this verse, which is from Psalms 127, right? Psalms 127 is basically all about provision at the beginning, right? It's unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who builds it. Unless the Lord guards the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. And it is in vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so He give His beloved sleep, right? So the whole passage here is all about, like, why do you have to wake up early? Why do you have to work until very late? Which is what I was doing, so that you can provide for yourself, you provide for your family, right? That's vanity. That's in vain, because God can give you even when you are in sleep. This is the original make money while you sleep, okay? This is the original make money while you sleep, right? So because the NASB version, the actual translation is not God, for it is God who give His beloved sleep. It is God who give His beloved even in his sleep. And then the next passage is, behold, the next verse is, behold, children are heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. And this is something that I meditate on day and night, right? And I started to see an example that the Lord was showing me, that if it's an inheritance and a reward, I don't have to pay for it. Right? Because imagine that inheritance is usually passed down by someone, right? So let's say you're a relative, and this relative is very wealthy, and she passed away, or he passed away, and then he leave you an asset, let's say a house, right? So in the will, it says, here's a house, right, as an inheritance. But you have to pay 10K a month. Then that's not really an inheritance. You rather not have it, okay? And then a reward, right? A reward is usually like you work for it and then you get a reward, right? So imagine your boss, okay, give you a reward. Say, hey, you did well for the company. I'm going to reward you with a Ferrari, but you got to pay 20K a month for the rest of your life. It's not really a reward, okay? So I started to see that if it's a reward and if it's an inheritance, right, then I don't have to pay for it. And that was something that helped me along the way, right? And to trust God for all the provision and all the money I needed, right, to supply for the first kid, okay? And that Psalms is Psalms 127. Our first daughter was born in January 27, which is 127. And then the second daughter was also born in 127.
Because the second daughter, even though we are not as financially burdened compared to the first one, but the same doubt,
The same
thing that the devil used to attack him.
And also, like, when our second daughter was conceived, our business was going through a bit of trouble, and I was wondering whether we will be able to pivot out of the situation. And so it was very sweet for the Lord to basically reminded me again that 127, right? He's the one who provided. He's the one who's going to provide, and is the one that will supply. And the truth is that the last 4 years, right, there's never really been a real stress or pressure to supply for our daughters. Not real, at least, right? Not real. Most of it is just in my head. But we have been supplied more than enough, and our growth for our business and financially, we've been very, very financially blessed over the last 4 years since we have our kids.
Children are really a heritage, and the fruit of the womb is really a reward.
Yep. So that's it. So this is the special video that we have decided to record so that we can share this around with friends, people that know us, who wants to know about the story. Or, if you are believing for a child, if you're a guy watching this, I want to encourage you that, if you are a believer especially, the Lord will provide. There's nothing for you to worry about, right? And send this to your wife, because if you guys are believing for a child, you guys can actually believe for a supernatural, painless childbirth together. So that's all I have for you guys. Bye for now.